The Report, A Journey to the Planets. Lee sat at the big wooden table in the library, surrounded by tall shelves of books. The library was very quiet. The only sounds were the soft hum of the air conditioner and the tiny scratch of pencils on paper. Outside, the afternoon sun shone through the windows and made golden squares of light on the floor. But Lee didn't notice any of that. He just stared at the blank piece of paper in front of him. On the top of the page, he had written in big, messy letters, "Science Project, Our Solar System." Underneath, there was nothing. Lee sighed. His group project was due soon. His teacher, Ms. Rivera, had given them 2 weeks to work on it. At first, Lee thought it would be easy. "Planets are cool," he had told his mom. "This will be fun." But now there were only 2 days left, and Lee still hadn't started his part. His group was made of 3 kids, Jack, Claire, and Lee. Jack was great at writing. He loved words and knew lots of big ones. Whenever the class wrote stories, Jack's pages were always full. Claire was amazing at drawing. She could make pictures of animals, people, and places that looked almost real. She even won a school arts prize once. And then there was Lee. Lee liked science, and he liked space. He watched videos about rockets and planets. He had glow-in-the-dark stars on his bedroom ceiling. But when it came to reading charts and building models, everything suddenly felt too hard. Jack had already finished the written report. He had shown it to the group at lunch. "I wrote about all 8 planets," Jack said proudly. "I use adjectives like gigantic, icy, and rocky. Ms. Rivera loves adjectives." Claire had opened her folder and pulled out a big sheet of paper. "And I drew a star map," she said. It was beautiful. Tiny white dots for stars, curved lines for orbits. She had even drawn the Milky Way like a soft, glowing cloud. Lee had smiled and said, "Wow, that's awesome." But inside, his stomach felt like it was full of heavy rocks. "Don't worry," he told them. "I'll start my model tonight." That was 3 days ago. Now he was still sitting in the library with nothing but a blank page and a big, nervous feeling. "We're going to have the best project," Jack had said. "As long as we all do our parts," Claire had added. Lee rubbed his eyes and looked around the library. There were shelves labeled astronomy, science, and space exploration. He had already pulled out 3 big books about planets. They were open in front of him. But the pages were full of confusing charts and strange words. Orbit, axial tilt, atmosphere, hydrogen, methane. He tried to read them, but the numbers and diagrams all seemed to dance around. "I don't get it," Lee whispered to himself. "How am I supposed to build a model if I can't even understand these charts?" He imagined Jack and Claire's faces when they saw he hadn't done anything. "We're going to fail because of me," he muttered. "They worked so hard, and I'm the one who's going to ruin it." His chest felt tight. He lowered his head onto his folded arms. The wooden table felt cool against his forehead. "I wish I could see a planet, really see it, not just in a book. I wish I could visit one instead of just reading about it." He closed his eyes. Suddenly, Lee felt a strange warm light on his face, even through his eyelids. The air around him seemed to move. His chair wobbled. Before he could sit up, he felt something like a soft pull, as if invisible hands were lifting him up. Whoa! Lee tried to grab the table, but his hands closed on empty air. He felt himself rise, up, 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 right through the ceiling, through the roof, and into the sky. The library, the school, and the town became smaller and smaller beneath him. The blue of the sky turned darker and darker until it was deep black. Above him, stars shone like tiny silver pins on dark velvet. In front of him was something even stranger. A shiny, round ship floating silently in space. It had a smooth silver hull and glowing blue windows. A door opened with a soft whoosh. Before Lee could say anything, he was gently pulled inside. He landed on a soft, bouncy floor. The room around him was bright and round, with blinking lights and little screens that showed stars, planets, and numbers. "Hello, kid," said a cheerful voice. Lee blinked. Standing in front of him was an alien. The alien was about as tall as Lee. Its skin was light green and looked smooth, almost like rubber. It had big, friendly golden eyes, a small nose, and a wide smile. From the top of its head, 3 soft antennas curled like springs. It wore a silver vest with glowing blue buttons. "You look confused," said Zori kindly. "I'm Zori. Did you just ask for help?" I think so," he finally said. "I mean, I wished I could see a planet for my school project." Zori nodded. "Yep, the universe heard you. Or maybe it was my satellite." The alien tapped a small round device on the wall. "It picks up wishes from kids who love space." "I'm not sure I love it. I mean, I do, but I'm not good at it. I can't understand the charts, and my group project is due soon. Jack wrote the report. Claire drew the star map. I'm supposed to make a model of a planet, but I haven't started. I'm going to let them down." Zori's golden eyes softened. "Ah, a teamwork problem and a science problem. 2 for the price of 1. Zori grinned. "Good thing I'm an expert." "You are?" Lee asked. "Of course," Zori said. "I'm from Mars. I fly around the solar system all the time. I know planets like you know your school playground." Lee's eyes widened. "You're from Mars?" "Yep, best planet in the neighborhood," Zori said proudly. "Red, rocky, lots of mountains and valleys. Not great for picnics, though. No air you can breathe." Lee laughed a little. His tight feeling in his chest loosened. "So, you'll help me with my project?" Lee asked. "I'd be happy to," said Zori. "First, we'll take a quick tour of space so you can see the universe, not just read about it. Then, on the way back, we'll build a perfect model of Mars together." Lee's heart began to race, but in a good way this time. "Let's go," he said. Zori walked over to the front of the ship. "Come on, co-pilot," the alien called. Lee hurried after Zori and sat in the chair next to the alien. The chair adjusted under him, gently fitting around his body like a hug. "Seat comfortable?" Zori asked. "Yeah," Lee said. "It's like sitting on a cloud." "Good. Space can be a little bumpy." Zori said. Ready? Lee took a deep breath. Ready. Zori tapped a blue button. 3, 2, 1, lift off. The ship glided forward. A huge window opened in front of them, showing the earth below, blue oceans, green land, and white swirls of clouds. Wow, Lee whispered. It's beautiful. That's your home, Zori said softly. From up here, it looks peaceful, doesn't it? Lee nodded. The library, the school, his unfinished project, all of it felt very small now. First stop, your moon, Zori said. The ship zoomed gently toward a gray, rocky ball hanging in space. The moon, Lee cried. We learned about it in class. It controls the tides. Very good, Zori said. It also has lots of craters from old space rocks that crashed into it. As they flew closer, Lee could see round craters, tall mountains, and long shadows. Zori turned on a small screen that labeled things. Sea of Tranquility, Tycho Crater, Mare Imbrium. It's not a real sea, Zori explained. Just old lava plains. Humans like pretty names. Jack would love these names. He likes words that sound fancy. Maybe he can add a few to his report, Zori suggested. They circled the moon once, then headed outward. Next, we pass by your neighbor planets, Zori said. We don't have time for all of them, but we can say hello to a few. Soon, a bright yellow-white planet came into view, wrapped in thick clouds. That's Venus, Lee guessed. Yes, Zori said. It's covered in clouds that trap heat. Very, very hot. The ground could melt metal. Definitely not good for picnics, Lee said. Exactly, Zori agreed. They flew past the blazing sun, at a safe distance, of course. Never get too close to stars without sunscreen times 1,000,000, Zori joked. Then, far ahead, Lee saw a small reddish dot. Is that? He began. My home, Zori said proudly. Mars. As they approached, Mars grew larger. Lee could see that it really was red, with shades of brown and orange. Dark lines and patches crisscrossed it, and white caps sat on the top and bottom like frosting on a cupcake. Are those the polar ice caps? Lee asked. Yes, Zori said. They're made of ice and frozen gas. Mars is cold, very cold, but it has some wonderful features. The ship slowed and began to orbit the planet. On the window, labels appeared again. That long line is Valles Marineris, a giant canyon, Zori said. It's so long it would stretch across your whole United States. That's huge, Lee said. And that bump there is Olympus Mons, the tallest volcano in the solar system. Lee leaned closer to the window. It looks like a giant mountain. It is, Zori said. Now this, the alien tapped another spot, is near where my village is. You live down there? Lee said quietly. Under the ground, in warm tunnels. We grow special crystal plants and collect water from the ice. It's cozy. Lee tried to imagine a whole town of friendly green aliens living in tunnels under the red rocks. That's amazing, he said. Zori smiled. Now, co-pilot, Pay attention. This will help with your model. The alien pressed a button and a smaller see-through image of Mars appeared in the middle of the ship, like a floating red ball of light. This is a hologram, Zori explained. We'll spin it and look at it from all sides. Mars slowly turned in the air. As it turned, little labels popped up. North Pole, South Pole, canyons, volcanoes, dust storms. There's so much detail, Lee said. I always thought planets were just round balls. They are balls, but they have stories written on their surfaces. Stories of mountains and valleys and storms. When you build a model, you're telling part of that story. Lee sat back and thought about that. He remembered the confusing charts in his books. They had numbers and words, but no feelings. Here, looking at Mars with Zori, everything started to make sense. I think I'm starting to understand, he said. Good, because now we're going to build your model. The ship turned and began to glide back toward Earth. As it did, the hologram of Mars stayed floating between them. First, Zori said, what will you use for the shape? At school, we have foam balls in the art room, Lee said. We used them for a planet mobile last year. Perfect, Zori said. So your model will be a sphere. Step 1. Draw a circle and write foam ball next to it so you don't forget. A small writing screen slid out in front of Lee. He picked up the attached pen and did as Zori said. Step 2, Zori continued. Color. What colors do you see on Mars? Red, orange, brown, and a little white at the top and bottom. Exactly. Do you have paint at school? Yes, we have red and white for sure. I can mix a little brown, Lee said. Write that down, Zori said. Lee wrote, paint, mix red plus brown, add white for ice caps. Step 3, Zori said. Details. You want your model to show something interesting. What features did we see? The big volcano, Olympus Mons, and the long canyon, and the polar ice caps. Good choices, Zori said. Your model doesn't have to show every single thing, just enough to help your classmates imagine the real planets. Zori guided Lee to draw a simple map of Mars. On the screen, a big bump for the volcano, a long stripe for the canyon, and 2 white caps at the top and bottom. They labeled each one. See, Zori said, you just made your own chart. Lee stared at the drawing. Yeah, he said slowly, and I actually understand it. There's one more step, Zori said. Step 4, explanation. When you show the model to your class, you explain what each part is. You don't just show it, you tell its story. Lee imagined standing in front of his class with Jack and Claire. Jack could read some of his report. Clara could show her star map. Then Lee could hold up his model and say, this is Mars, the red planet. Here is Olympus Mons, the tallest volcano in the solar system. Thinking about it made him feel nervous, but also excited. Do you think I can really do it? He asked. Zori's antennae bobbed. Of course. You just needed to see the planet in a different way. You're not bad at science, Lee. You just needed a different kind of teacher. As they flew closer to Earth, the blue and white ball grew bigger and brighter in the window. What about my friends? Lee asked suddenly. Jack and Claire. I feel bad. They finished their parts on time. I didn't. Maybe you can still finish, Zori said. You have a plan now, and you can tell them you were stuck and that you got help. But won't they be mad? Lee asked. Maybe they'll be surprised, Zori said. Maybe they'll be proud of you for not giving up. Working in a group isn't just about doing your own part. It's about helping each other when it's hard. Lee thought about that. He imagined telling Jack, "Your adjectives are awesome. Can we add some to my explanation?" He imagined telling Claire, "Your star map is amazing. Can you help me paint the little details on Mars?" He realized something important. He didn't have to do everything alone. "I'll ask them," he said. "We can make the project even better together." "That's the spirit," Zori said. The ship slid silently down through the clouds. The dark black of space faded into soft blue. Soon, Lee could see his town again, small but familiar. Streets, houses, the park, and finally the roof of the school. "We're here," Zori said. "Time to land." The ship stopped above the school's roof. A circle of light opened in the floor. "In a moment, you'll be back in your library chair," Zori said. "It will feel like no time has passed, but you'll remember everything." "But what about my model?" Lee asked. Zori winked and pressed a green button. A small, solid ball appeared in Lee's hands. It was about the size of a grapefruit, painted red and brown with white caps on top and bottom. A small bump showed the volcano. A long, darker line marked the canyon. "It's not finished," Zori said. "You'll still need to add your own paint and labels and explain it to your class. But this should help you get started." Lee held the model carefully. It felt smooth and slightly warm. "It's perfect," he said. "Thank you." Zori's golden eyes glowed softly. "You're welcome, co-pilot. Remember, space is big, but your courage is bigger. And if you keep asking questions and looking up, you'll never stop learning." Lee swallowed the little lump in his throat. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked. "Maybe," Zori said with a grin. "There are lots of kids who love space. I stay pretty busy. But every time you look at Mars in the night sky, you can wave. I'll wave back." Lee gave a small laugh. "I will." "Goodbye, Lee," Zori said, "and good luck with your project." "Goodbye, Zori," Lee replied. The suckle of light grew brighter, and the library swam into view. Lee blinked and found himself sitting at the same table, in the same chair, with the same books open in front of him. The library was still quiet. The golden squares of sunlight still lay on the floor. For a second, he wondered if it had all been a dream. Then he looked down. In his hands, he still held the small, unfinished model of Mars. He smiled. Quickly, he pulled his notebook toward him and began to write down everything he and Zori had planned. Foam ball, red and brown paint, white ice caps, volcano, canyon, labels, explanation. The confusing charts in the books didn't scare him anymore. Now there were just extra details. He had already seen the real planet. He understood the story behind the numbers. When the library closed, Lee hurried home. That evening, he asked his mom for help finding paint and glue. He worked carefully, adding his own touches to the model. Small labels on toothpicks, a neat title that said Mars, the Red Planet, and a little card explaining the volcano and canyon. For the first time since the project started, he couldn't wait to show his work. The next day at school, Lee met Jack and Claire before class. "I'm really sorry I was late with my part," he said. "I got stuck and I didn't know what to do, but I asked for help, and I think I finally understand Mars." Jack pushed up his glasses. "Can we see?" he asked. Lee gently took the model out of his backpack. "Whoa," Jack said. "That looks so cool." Claire's eyes lit up. "I love the colors," she said. "The labels are really clear, too." "Thanks," Lee said, a little shy. "Do you think you could help me make the writing on the cards sound better, Jack? And Claire, maybe we can match the colors of my model to the planets on your star map." "Sure," Jack said. "We can add some of my adjectives." "And I can draw a tiny Mars next to your card," Claire added. For the next few minutes, they worked together, talking and laughing. Jack suggested words like massive, rocky, and ancient. Claire added a tiny red planet on her star map with a thin white ring for the polar caps. When it was time to present, the three of them stood at the front of the class together. Jack read their report with clear, confident words. Claire held up her beautiful star map. And then it was Lee's turn. He took a deep breath and held up his model. "This is Mars," he began. "It's called the Red Planet because of the color of its rocks and dust. It has the tallest volcano in the solar system, called Olympus Mons, and a huge canyon called Valles Marineris." As he spoke, he remembered flying past Mars with Zori, seeing the mountains and valleys from above. His voice grew steadier. He smiled. When they finished, Ms. Rivera's eyes were shining. "That was an excellent project. I can see that you worked hard and helped each other. I'm very proud of all three of you." Lee sat down, his heart full. That night, after dinner, he went outside and looked up at the sky. The stars twinkled. Somewhere among them, a tiny red dot glowed faintly. Lee raised his hand and gave a small wave. In a ship far away, a green alien named Zori smiled, waved back, and set a new course, ready to help the next kid who looked up at the stars and wished for help.